How has La Orca impacted the ORC issue in Los Angeles? I mean, do you have any success stories or numbers that you can share where La Orca has absolutely driven value, not just to the retailers, but to your community?
Well, you know, I don't know in really dollar value. We're up in tens of millions of dollars of property recovered back to the victims. But it really comes down to the partnership that we do have. It's more in the sense that how we rate the success of La Orca is what our retail partners think. We're in the business of being in law enforcement. We're here to protect and serve. But in return, we're working for all the victims out there. So really, we measure our success based on what they tell us. So that's, you know, it's a different stance in that sense. We understand there's a dollar amount that has to be recovered, and that may have some success. We've had many cases that are in the millions and millions of dollars per one case. We've got cases that goes down to, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 recoveries. When you look at it in totality, absolutely, it's probably unmeasurable, but it really comes down to the partnerships that we do have with each individual. La Orca itself, just to kind of give you an idea of the program of La Orca, as what the captain said, we went live with our website in January of 2010. To this day, we're at 1,150 members currently just in the La Orca area. Of the makeup of that 1,150, we probably have upwards of 190 different companies represented. Retailers, and probably about 80 law enforcement agencies who are part of the La Orca program.
How is that compared to the other Orca programs around the country that you know of?
Well, you know, since La Orca, when we created it and went live in January 2010, there has been about 10 other Orca programs that have been created throughout the country. Naturally, we've been part of it in helping them guide in the educational piece of actually trying to build a successful partnership. In maintaining one. As you know, there's many partnership programs out there, but really is to sustain that type of partnership for the long haul. It's not about what we can do right now, but also planning towards the future in helping the retail industry and our fellow law enforcement agencies.
Did you have a part play a part in the recent Colorado Orca program that was just released last week?
Yes, yes, we
Very
do.
Good.
We try to do is, you know, we get a lot of calls throughout the country from law enforcement agencies just because of the word of mouth. Because of La Orca's success, we get many calls throughout the country from other law enforcement agencies, and that's key. It has to be driven by a law enforcement agency. It can't be driven by the retailers. Unfortunately, the reason is because there is a competitive cycle or edge because they are in a competitive business, in the retail business. So again, we are like the neutral party. We are, as maybe we can put it, as a referee, and trying to do is bring it to a venue that we can bring all the retailers in and share that type of information. Because one may think it's a competitive edge of releasing bad information from their shrinkage, from their stores, may allow their competitors to have an edge up. And that's one of the big reasons.
So you neutralize it in effect, and then give them a center point to be able to focus on, and a common cause.
A common cause, exactly. When you're in a partnership program, it's exactly that. We're there for one reason. There's a common goal of what our mission is. And as long as we have our partners who agree to this type of partnership, absolutely. Again, with the La Orca program, this is there's no sign on a dotted line. This is a gentleman's agreement, is what my captain has asked. As you know, with human resources and liability and legal, we can't have people sign on dotted lines, but just the mere gentleman's agreement is good enough for all of us. And that's what the partnership is all about anyways.
You know, obviously your primary tool, providing real-time intelligence sharing, has been very successful. Who funded it? How did you get it started? And can you talk to that a little bit about what that looks like?
Well, I think the captain can talk about that.
With that tool, that's what it is. It's a tool, and you're talking about the website. But that is one part of it. You have to have the human part of it too, in terms of those resources, the people on the ground, the LP professional and law enforcement working, and what they do with the information that they get from that website. The website, we were very, very fortunate that the retailers saw the benefit of this, and they brought forward the money to pay for the annual fee that we have to pay to the webmaster. And it's been very, very, very good for us. And we've been able to do that for the last several years, and we've been able to fund it through the donations through the retailers.
Now, this software, I believe, is in use at a number of ORCA programs. And then I see there's a couple of ORCA programs that have separate databases that aren't using the same, so to speak. Is that correct? I mean, yours is being used in other cities as well?
Well, many of it is. We have the same website vendor that we are using. I don't know about some of the ones that don't. They may be using another vendor, a different company, but yeah, that's all I have.
How effective is the software for you? I mean, and do you see it graduating or evolving to the next level and stages and such?
I think we're going to because of the technology, it will have to evolve, and because of criminals, we're going to have to evolve. So the answer to the question short is yes, but I think the technology that we have now is, as I said, it's real time. Whenever anyone inputs that information, my BlackBerry goes off, and also
your BlackBerry,
my BlackBerry, and who's ever signed on can get that information. And what we have in LAPD is that our racer division has the opportunity to get that information too. So when it's inputted in and it goes out from the webmaster, everyone gets that information. So you'll know if someone puts something in Victorville, then we'll get that information.
So a captain on the LAPD gets a BlackBerry text when somebody accesses that website?
I do, yes.
That's important. I mean, that's a high level of responsibility and responsiveness, I should say. That's fantastic. Now, let me ask you another question. A lot of websites have been hacked over the last 6 months by Anonymous. Clear was hacked just a few months ago. You know, I mean, what is LAORCA doing and that software group doing to make sure Anonymous and other hackers, you know, can't get through? And I know that's a rhetorical question, but, you know, what's your software folks telling you?
Well, we keep in constant contact with our webmaster, and he assures us that he is on top of it. Good. We've not had any. As a matter of fact, he works with other federal agencies and so forth, so he has to make sure that his product is very good.
Excellent. You know, you mentioned, Kent, how LAORCA has reached beyond the LAPD and now has attendees coming from dozens of other municipalities. Could you tell us again how many are involved and why, how you got them involved, and how is that impacting their actions to help the retailers?
Well, you know, I think a lot of it is based on the success of what LAORCA is. I think a lot of law enforcement agencies are seeing that there are benefits from this type of partnership program. You know, in many of the police culture, it's looked upon as how we're going to get more work. I think when we're approached by, whether it's the retailers or just the private sector in general, law enforcement will look at it as more work could be generated behind this. But as we see, as I've been on for 26 plus years as a detective, a senior detective, many of this investigations that's done by the private sector now is just as equal to what our work is. They're just as educated. Their training, I'm not going to say it's equal to ours, but they have grown in their training abilities. Again, you may have a lot of ex-law enforcement getting into those security director roles. They implement these things. You have just the private sector just taking it upon themselves to just better educate themselves. So you're seeing that whole change in the 20-something years that I've seen. They're not treated as a second type class or a wannabe security guard or wannabe law enforcement officer. So you're seeing that transition definitely in the last 10 years. There has been a big change. So that working relationship, it's much better as we are today.
let me just add to that in terms of just the working relationship and the partnership. There's some things that we in law enforcement, in terms of our equipment, we weren't able to get. And I'll give you a very quick example. We, a couple of years ago, were following a group that were targeting various retailers in terms of burglarizing. And we got word that they were going to leave the LA area and go down to Texas. Well, my people, I could not authorize them to go to Texas, yet one of our members, LP, followed them to Texas, observed them in the criminal activity, videotaped that information, brought it back. We were able to get search warrants, and working with that group, we were able to arrest those individuals. So that was a partnership that law enforcement and LP worked together.
Benefits on both sides.
Benefits on both sides.
On both sides.
And you had various retailers working together on this. And when these individuals saw these crimes occurring in Texas, their company wasn't involved, but yet they did follow these folks and brought it back, and we had a successful arrest.
Have you seen a significant increase in the number of ORC arrests and convictions and in stops, so to speak, over the last 3 years during your existence, during the LAORCA existence?
Well, of course. Naturally, it's brought to light because now we are aware of what other law enforcement agencies are doing, correct? If we're just sheltered within our own department, we're only seeing what's happening with what our employees are doing in their arrests. But now with the LAORCA program, it is a venue for all this information now to be shared. So we may have arrests in LA, but we may know some of arrests that's in some of our smaller area or smaller cities within the LA.
Well, and also with the FBI requiring the code numbers on the investigative histories that they're entering into their database, that's also going to help long term from a national level, I would imagine. And then LAORCA obviously provides that information to them as well, correct?
Well, it's not LAORCA because it's department, it's from each.
Understood,
okay.
understood.
Okay.
But it's the LAPD.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So, and that'll have a benefit long term, I would assume.
Absolutely. You know, I think also, as what the captain had mentioned, LAORCA is a program that's more of a city-driven program. I think the future is going to be held in a sense that, or be seen, where there's a regionalized type system. Currently, right now, what we have, we're limited. We only have the information to our members. They can be in Northern California or in San Diego or Nevada.
More like the Northeast, Southeast, and make it more regional.
More regional, where we can then communicate with multiple states. Because we know that, as what George had mentioned, that these crews, boosting crews, travel throughout different states. And to have a system that can share that information to everybody who's part of this, it would give them some kind of advance notice or give them information that's needed on their investigations.
So your best guess before, how long is it going to take us to get there?
You know, I don't know where that is. I hope that there is something like that in the future where we can grow into a national system. I know the captain has, one of my tasks within the last year was to look at a national regional type system that the LAORCA programs can actually benefit from, where the information can be shared to multiple law enforcement agencies and multiple private sector partners.